Welcome to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor. Really pleased to have with me for the first time Blaine Monahan, I should say. I don't want to butcher the name or else he won't talk to me. Blaine Monahan. He's the president, CEO, and director of Pacific Ridge Exploration. It's a company that I added to my list for coverage just this weekend. And Jay Taylor's Gold Energy and Tech Stocks. Paid subscribers will hear an audio version of this interview first, and then we'll let it go to a wider audience on YouTube on Wednesday of next week. The reason I wanted to have Blaine on was because when I heard this story, it was, first of all, it's a name that I was familiar with going back some time, but then it sort of was out of sight, out of mind for quite a while. And then I got a call from Blaine's office and inviting me to check out the story. And when I started hearing it, I said, wow, this is something is worth following. And in fact, the company has a market cap, pretty low market cap in US money, only around $11 million, despite the fact they have a gold equivalent resource in British Columbia of 5.7 million ounces, copper, gold, and a little silver there as well. Stock trades in Canada under the symbol PEX. Down here in the States, you can buy it as I have under the PZXZF. 61.4 million shares, 18 cents in US money. As I say, a market cap of around $11 million. I should say before I say hello to Blaine that just as a matter of disclaimer, I'm not being paid for this interview, not being paid to promote Pacific Ridge. I do want my subscribers to learn about it. That's the main reason I want to talk to Blaine, but also just to get the story out, because I think it's a very undervalued story at its current market cap in this market, this current market when the gold prices and the copper prices are where they are. So Blaine, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Jay. Great to be here. And thank you for your subscribers and listeners. It's good to be back on. You're right. Pacific Ridge has been a little bit quieter this last while, but it's an incredibly compelling story right now. And it's changed quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I would really say it changed this past June when we partnered with Frank Juster's Fiore Group. They
Right.
injected $3 million into the company, recognizing the value. We published a resource for our Clayule project, the Clayule main zone, and that now hosts 334 million tons of a 0.33 copper equivalent. So gold equivalent, yeah, that's equals to 5.74 million ounces gold. And for a copper equivalent, it's 2.4 billion pounds copper. So it's a significant resource.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, we are returning some very high grade copper gold mineralization from another project called RDP. So it's a lot has changed since June. I think we've got the wind at our back, and we're very much undervalued when you compare ourselves to our peers out there. So it is a great time for you, for us, and your subscribers.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, again, you've not told the story. It's just right, sort of been resuscitated once you had some capital inflow there from the Fiore group. You mentioned, and when we talked yesterday, that the Clayule is your main project. That's the one where you have that resource. But you also have a very exciting RDP as another project that looks extremely high grades of gold and copper as well. These are porphyry targets that you're looking at. RDP, I believe, is a little bit to the west of Clayule. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
I don't know if you want to sort of walk us through the story, but I guess maybe start out with Clayule, which is the main project. And then, as I understood it, the question is, do we want to spend more time and money to prove up a resource to improve it and to maybe look at economics? Or do we want to go and look at this other luscious target over here to the west named RDP? So walk us through give us what you've got here in terms of your corporate presentation, maybe help us understand.
Sure, Jay. And if you just allow me to share, I will certainly pull it up.
That would be great.
Yeah. So I'm going to pull up one slide. It's kind of my intro slide, and it's also my concluding slide, and it really sort of highlights everything that investors need to know. I am still disabled, but basically I'll talk to it till I get access here. So really what we're looking at here is we have 5 projects in BC, 5 copper gold projects. We are focused on copper in BC, but Clayule and RDP are the focus. And again, Clayul is the flagship with that resource, that 334 million tons, which contains that 2.42 billion pounds copper, or 1.1 billion pounds copper, 2.7 million ounces gold, 10 million ounces silver. Yeah, the big question it comes back to is that you already have a pretty significant resource. It puts this amongst a select group of copper explorers in BC. And we have to decide moving forward, do we want to continue to devote resources looking to expand that through infill drilling and resource expansion, because it does remain open. But there are a number of other targets on the property package that have only seen one drill hole or haven't been tested at all. So I think you're going to see us do a blend of that moving forward, dedicate some drilling to resource expansion, some drilling towards infill drilling. And that's what we did this year. We drilled 5 holes at RDP, following up on what was one of BC's best drill intercepts in 2022, and then 2 holes at Clayul. So we've reported the first 5 holes from RDP. I would characterize that program as very much a success. We intersected strong copper gold porphyry mineralization in 4 of the 5 holes. One of the holes was the best intercept we've ever returned from RDP. And again, it will be probably among the top 10 copper gold intervals returned in BC this year. And we confirmed the geometry, and we discovered a new zone of porphyry mineralization. And at Clayul, the 2 holes we drilled was focused on, kind of like we talked about, we did an infill drill hole that was kind of drilled right into the guts. And then we drilled another hole that was sort of a step out, looking to push out the resource to the west. So I think what you'll see us do in the future, Jay, and that's something we're still trying to determine, because we have just received the drill results from RDP. Once we get the drill results back from Clayul, that'll help us determine what our steps and plans should be next year. But I expect it'll be a pretty robust program. And one of the advantages to having RDP so closely located to Clayul, it really reduces our drill costs. So what we've done over the last number of years is we just set up a main camp at Clayul, and then we're just helicoptering people back and forth from Clayul to RDP on a daily basis. So that really helps keep our costs low. There's a lot of synergies there. And I think that's a lot of the reasons why the Fiore group got involved. And that was probably the most important catalyst for us in June. And I think you can give investors a lot of confidence. When you have such a strong mining group like them, getting into your data room, looking at your projects, looking at the team, and investing their own money, I think that really validates our story. And at that point in time, the money they invested, it was a 14-cent unit with a 20-cent warrant. So they've done very well on that investment so far. We were able to access some more capital in the summer, which enabled us to increase that drill program at RDP and also drill some holes at Clayul. So we've, as mentioned, we have reported the results now from RDP. I'm very pleased with them. We're waiting for the remaining 2 holes from Clayul, and that's why it's timely for us to be speaking right now, because I am expecting those results sometime in the next couple of weeks.
Good.
And I'm expecting decent mineralization. I mean, we could see the mineralization, and one of the holes was, testing a 130-meter gap between 2 past intercepts that returned some pretty decent widths and grades. So I would be surprised if we didn't return a pretty good interval from those holes we drilled at Clayul.
So your geologist can tell pretty well from the drill core whether you're in the rocks you want to be in, I guess, probably, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a nice thing about when you're exploring for copper. I mean, the copper sulfides are, visually you're gonna see them. Like in Clayul's case, I mean, it's typically chalcopyrite, maybe a little bit of bornite, and that's the same at RDP. Although RDP is a little bit richer, you're going to see more chalcopyrite, more bornite. And we also have what's called an XRF machine, which actually we just call it the XRF gun. And once you calibrate that against historical kind of data, you can get a pretty good sense of what that core interval might grade.
Yeah, Blaine, I think I hadn't enabled you to share. I have now, if you want to try.
Perfect.
Maybe you were having difficulty. Not your fault, it was mine. I didn't enable this. So go ahead if you, yeah, there you go. All right.
Perfect.
The first slide was something that you like to end on. And and begin with. So,
Yeah,
okay.
I like to, like a strong essay, the conclusion is basically your intro and vice versa. So I like to sort of bookend the presentation with this
Hmm.
slide. It really just gets into, obviously speaking about the Fiore Group and how important that was, what our goal is to become BC's leading copper exploration company, and the thesis. And I don't want to get into the macro too much, but it is amazing how much the macro has continued to strengthen over the last few years. I mean, a number of years ago, really, it was just about the electrification of society.
Yeah,
And in the last couple of years, now we can throw in AI and data centers.
right.
And in a call with an investor I had today, he brought up another really good point that I hadn't considered, which is just another driver, which will be robotics. I mean, we're going to see mass adoption of robotics at the industrial and personal scale over the coming decades also. So
Right.
there's going to be continued increased demand for copper. And of course, we all know there haven't been a lot of copper supplies, and a lot of the major copper mines are and declining. And
Hmm.
then you couple that with increased political, social, environmental risk. We're in an absolutely great space for copper. And especially in a tier one jurisdiction like BC that's attracting all this strategic investment and joint ventures and M&A. So we're very pleased with the portfolio we have. We're very pleased that we've reported this inaugural resource that puts us amongst a select group, and also putting out some excellent high grade copper gold intervals from RDP.
Hmm. Yeah, we want to get to RDP. I just was very, very impressed with some of the couple of those intersections that you reported, and we'll get to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So a little bit on the management side. I mean, we talked a little bit about me. I've been involved in the space since 25 years, and it's kind of interesting. I started in 2001 with a company called Wheaton River Minerals, which was effectively a shell that Frank Giustra acquired.
Mhm.
So I've come full circle here with Frank Giustra, and it's also fascinating because in 2001 gold was $225 an ounce at the time.
Yeah.
Um, and when people were talking about $1,000 an ounce, I thought they were crazy.
Hmm.
So now when people talk about $10,000 an ounce, sure, why not? I mean, that's a far smaller percentage gain from where we from 250 to 1,000, from 4,000
Just a
to
measure of the decline in the dollar is what it is. And so
yeah, yeah,
gold is money and
absolutely.
everything else is credit, as JP Morgan said. So
Yeah, absolutely. The technical team is headed by Jerry Carlson, who he's our
I know it
chairman,
is. Yeah.
and Danette Schwab. So they come up with the plans, the thesis. We have a strong independent technical committee. So they present the plans and the thesis to this committee. They may have their own input. So for me, it's quite simple. Whatever plan emerges after that, I know it's been very well thought out, and it's just my job to get the capital for them to execute. Related, we're showing Rob McLeod and Ryan Waymark. So
Hmm.
they're principals of the Fiore Group.
Hmm.
So part of that partnership with Fiore Group, with that investment, we appointed two nominees to the board, and also Rob and Ryan came on as strategic advisors. So I think the real important thing for investors thinking about the Fiore Group, I think it really validates our company, our projects, our team, our approach. I think it helps us access capital and also deal flow. So they're
Yeah.
inundated with deals, not only incoming but also outbound. So
Hmm.
I think they look at Pacific Ridge as an excellent copper exploration company, but they would like to see us get bigger. And we can do that through exploration and discovery. But I think that will also mean you'll see us going out there, continuing to look to make acquisitions at the project level or perhaps even the corporate level to establish ourselves truly as BC's leading copper exploration company.
Hmm. Good.
This is a good slide, Jay, and there's a lot of good points that come up with this. From obviously shares issued to market cap to liquidity to financings. So when we partnered with the Fiore Group in June, we only had 17 million shares issued. We've
Hmm.
raised almost $8 million since then. So that means our share count has gone from 17 million to 61 million shares.
Hmm.
And all of those shares are free trading. So recognizing that there were going to be a lot of shares hitting the market, we've engaged in some pretty aggressive IR and marketing programs because it was really important that as those shares became free trading, we were creating a marketplace to absorb that. And I think we've done a very good job. And we can see that in the liquidity. We've traded almost 70 million shares since September 1, average trading volume, 1 million shares a day, so very liquid. And that's meant that anybody that's been sitting on a profit has been able to exit without negatively impacting share price. So I'm hopeful and confident that as we continue to issue news and as the shares continue to clean up, it's kind of setting a base for a more rapid share price appreciation moving forward. We're under no immediate pressure to raise capital. We have about $2.5 million in the treasury right now. We'll probably end the year with about $2 million. And there's about $4 million in the money warrants. That financing that Fiore Group participated in was a 14-cent unit with a full 20-cent warrant. So all of those are in the money in time. We've actually seen a few trickle in.
You said 4 million?
Approximately.
Money? Yeah. In the money. Okay.
Yeah. Our principal exchange is the venture, but yeah, we do trade on the OTCQB and pretty good liquidity on that exchange also, and the symbol is PEXZF. We also trade on the Frankfurt exchange, and I'll be there in the next couple of weeks. So in addition to some of these aggressive IR marketing campaigns, we're also being pretty aggressive getting the word out and traveling, doing road shows. I was in New York and Boston and Hartford a couple of weeks ago, and next week I'll be in Toronto for a Red Cloud conference, and I'll be in Frankfurt and London for some additional conferences. So this is really important, and I think you would agree, Jay, that the biggest issue, and it's not even necessarily an issue, I think it's an opportunity for investors, is that this is a story that kind of fell off the radar screen. The fundamentals for our company have never been better, and we are significantly undervalued. So I think as we continue to get the word out, we're going to close that gap. And that gap between our peers is 2 to 7 times.
I agree.
So we're in the Quesnel terrain. So basically the Quesnel terrain hosts almost all of Canada's copper, gold, copper, porphyry mines. It spans the length of BC. We're in the northern part of it between the past producing Chemist and the Mount Milligan mine. So really ourselves, Centerra, and Northwest Copper are the dominant players here. We're very fortunate that Chemist was in production to the north of us because that meant road and power was constructed, and we're only about 5 kilometers from that. And it also provides an example of what you would do if this ultimately became a mine. So Chemist was producing concentrate on site, and they were trucking it down that forestry road to Mackenzie, where it was put on railhead and then trucked to port. So it can work here. It's worked before, and I expect maybe within the next 5 or 10 years, there will be several new mines in this area. I expect Chemist will probably restart. They put out a new resource, and they're looking to put out some new economics around it. And there's also a lot of activity to the north of us in the Toodoggone, whether that's Thesis or TDG, A-Mark, a lot of excitement up there. So we're looking forward to more activity in this area, and with more activity, that'll improve our economics also. We talked about Clayule and RDP's close proximity to Clayule, and that was one of the reasons why we really liked it back in 2021 when we acquired it. We knew that it had returned some pretty decent grade in the past, and its proximity to Clayule meant that it would be a lot more efficient to advance these projects in tandem, and that's what we've done since 2022. We've had one camp at Clayule, and then supporting the drill programs at RDP from Clayule. Again, on the infrastructure front, so we're looking at Clayule, we're looking west. We're showing that mining, road, and power. So we move all the heavy goods up along that road, whether it's fuel, food, drill rigs. Then we helicopter everything up into the Alpine. We're at about 1,800 meters elevation here. The deposit is hosted in a valley, so the topography is pretty good up there. And our typical drill season is early mid-June to early mid-September. But you can get a lot of work done during that time period. In 2023, we completed about 9,000 meters of drilling at Clayule in that 3-month period with up to 3 drill rigs. So it's really just a matter of how many drill rigs you have turning will dictate just how many meters you can get done. So Clayule is quite big. We do own it 100%. It has been our focus since 2020. Our first drill program was in 2021. We've completed Well, we spent over $15 million here, more than 20,000 meters of drilling, and it's almost entirely been focused on the Clio main zone. And that's made a lot of sense because historically, and what interested us in Clio was some of those historic drill results. So almost all the drilling's been focused at the Clio main zone. We've now been able to publish a resource based on that drilling, and it's a significant resource. It remains open. We know we can continue to grow it. But again, going back to that question, with future dollars, how should you look to spend it, or what percentage should you focus on infill drilling or resource expansion versus discovery drilling? Myself, I'm more biased towards discovery drilling, again, because we already do have a significant resource here. It's not going anywhere. At any point in time, you can decide you want to devote more resources to increasing the confidence of the category or looking to expand it. I think there's a lot better bang for our buck by testing some of these other targets that haven't been tested or only seen a single drill hole. For example, Ginger has seen one drill hole, Ginger South, one drill hole, Parish Hill, one drill hole. We've never tested Back Ridge, never tested M39. And as a matter of fact, last year we identified a new target to the north of Clio main zone that has a very similar magnetic signature. And our thesis is that perhaps Clio main zone is just one small part of a much bigger system. So that's got to get tested also.
Yeah, sure.
So at the end of the day, I think ultimately you're going to see a split of drilling between infill and resource expansion and discovery type drilling. Oh, and as mentioned, of course, yes, we did drill 2 holes there this year. That's our sort of remaining catalyst for drilling. We have those two drill holes pending, and I expect them in the next week or two. This is an important slide. It can get really busy, but it helps explain our strategy and why we report in a gold equivalent versus, a copper equivalent versus a gold equivalent. So we report in a gold equivalent because if we reported in a gold equivalent, we don't have many peers. With a copper equivalent, we can compare ourselves to a number of different companies like Vizsla or Northwest Copper or Kodiak Copper. And this resource stands up very favorably against their resources. So it serves as a handy peer comparison, which helps demonstrate just how undervalued we are. But if we did report it in a gold equivalent, I think it helps demonstrate to investors just how big this already is right now. And if you use that gold equivalent number, you'd have 5.7 million ounces gold equivalent. And again, it can get bigger. So we're very pleased with what we have right now, but we know it can get bigger, and we're looking forward to continuing to do that.
Blaine, regarding the current prices of gold and copper, which is more valuable?
It doesn't really change the copper equivalent number or gold equivalent number, or whichever price you use. But we are more gold dominant, so a higher price in gold will have more of an impact. The value ratio here is about 2 to 1 gold to copper.
What was that? What's the value?
It's about 2 to 1 gold to copper.
Okay, so you could view it as more of a gold project. So it's a gold-rich porphyry system.
Yeah, which is a nice problem to have. At the end of the day, for porphyry, I think you want to be, copper gold or gold and copper. I'm much more interested in that versus, say, a copper moly.
Yeah, indeed, agreed. Yeah, at least at this point in time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what investors should expect from these remaining 2 drill holes from Clio, I think they should expect some decent intervals and some decent grade. And I say that because hole 70 was testing a 130-meter gap that existed between 2 holes that previously had returned some decent widths and decent grades. So I'd be very surprised if hole 70 didn't return similar sort of widths, similar sort of grades, but you never know. And hole 71 was more of a resource expansion type drill hole. It was testing the western margin, but again, drilled in close proximity to a hole that had returned some pretty decent widths and grades in the past, hole 68. But if I was a betting man, I would say, what hole is going to be better? I'd say hole 70, just because it is drilled right into the guts of it, and it is between those 2 past higher grade intervals.
So what will you be looking for then? You mentioned a little bit moment ago that your program next year, how you allocate capital will depend on these two drill holes to a certain extent. What are you looking for at Clayuel to tell you that you need to put more into that or less into Clayuel?
Yeah, I don't think these two drill holes are sufficient
Yeah.
to kind of decide one way or the other. I think it's really just a strategic view of management to decide, and investors and what the market is telling us that, okay, we're prepared to give you X dollars and this is how we'd like you to spend it.
Uh-huh.
Right now, what I'm hearing, and this comes more so from, major mining companies, and again, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to find something big enough that's economically robust to attract M&A. So we're talking to these various companies all the time. And a lot of the feedback we've gotten so far is that, yeah, this is great. You guys have done really good work. And we've been communicating with them for years. They're very pleased to see the progress we've made. But most of them right now are probably more biased on the exploration side versus
Uh,
spending money on infill and resource expansion. And I would tend to agree with them right now. I think it would be a lot easier to potentially add, several hundred more million tons of resource in a new discovery versus trying to do that at the Clio main zone deposit.
mhm. Well, you've got a lot to shoot at Clayuel, the way it looks potentially. So a lot of
There
it.
is, and the great thing is, you at least we're already at a point where we have a very solid resource that
Yeah,
you know
right,
you can
exactly. Yeah.
grow, and you've got all that upside. Yeah. So we'll move on to RDP
Yeah.
here.
Hmm.
So whereas, I would characterize Clayuel as the state, RDP is the sizzle. So I mean, you have Clayuel is reminiscent of many BC porphyry deposits, bigger, lower grade. RDP is a bit different. It's returning some very high grade copper gold mineralization, but it's much earlier stage than Clayuel. Not much drilling has been done here. And why we decided to return to RDP this year was because earlier in the year, AMARC made a brand new discovery at their Joy, and one target there called Aurora, and it returned one of the best copper gold intervals I've seen in a very long time. I'd really have to scour through and do some research to see if anybody's done anything much better than this in BC. And that was 108 meters of 2.59% copper equivalent, and their
Hmm.
stock quintupled on that result. So RDP, we've returned similar results here. In
Yeah.
2022, we drilled 107 meters of 1.4 copper equivalent. So that really, a light bulb went off and said, well, listen, if if the market is responding so strongly to that result, we should go back out there to RDP and follow up on that drill hole. And that made a lot of sense. I mean, RDP, it's in the Golden Horseshoe. It's at the southern end of the Toodoggone, and it's in the same host rocks, and it's returned similar widths, similar grades. And that's really, I wouldn't say that's what attracted Fiore to the story. Fiore was more attracted to the story based on Clayuel and
Hmm.
basically seeing that we had a significant resource there. RDP was just kind of a kicker. So we were very pleased to access that capital, get back to work at RDP. And I guess I should mention also, so again, we own this 100%.
Hmm.
Um, in 2021, we were talking to Antofagasta, and they were pretty interested in Clayuel, but we weren't open to doing a deal with them. But because we had limited resources, we could really only advance one project at a time. So we made RDP available to them. They optioned it out. And in 2022, they completed a 5-hole program. And that's where that hole 5 came from, a spectacular result. Now, I'm not going to say they made a mistake. They have their own reasons why they do what they do. But in 2023, they came back with a very small program following up on that drill hole. They only drilled 2 holes that were 300-meter step outs. And where we predicted there would be mineralization, they intersected it and shut it down. So their 2023 program did not adequately follow up on that hole 5, which was one of the best copper gold intervals in BC that year. So this year we did and completed a program that we felt adequately followed up on hole 5. And I would say it was hugely successful. So we completed 2,100 meters in 5 holes. Hole 11 was, I'm not going to say it was a twin of hole 5. There was a step out, not a huge step out, but a step out nonetheless. And now it is the best hole we've ever drilled at RDP, that 112 meters of 1.3 copper equivalent. So a spectacular interval. And a question we were trying to answer was, in the drilling that was done in 2022 and 2023, hole 5 returned that great interval. And so we drilled hole 7, which was a 300-meter step out. And we believe that the mineralization is in a steeply dipping tabular body. And that's why at the bottom of the hole, that's where we predicted we would hit mineralization, and we did. Antofagasta had a different view. Ultimately, they did walk away from the project, and we were very happy to get it back so we could launch a program just like this. So hole 11 was the best hole yet. Hole 12 and 13 confirmed our thesis that this is a steeply dipping tabular body. And hole 14, we encountered porphyry copper gold mineralization in an entirely new zone. So again, I would characterize this program as hugely successful. We're very pleased with the results we've gotten from it, and we're looking very forward to getting back there next year.
Yeah, I guess the question is, how does it hang together? And you just have to do a lot of drilling to figure that out. But boy,
well,
when you're
that's
looking
exactly
at
right. So
112 meters of 2.2 grams of copper, a copper equivalent, I mean gold equivalent, that's 2 grams of gold equivalent. That's a marvelous hole. I mean, it's
it's fantastic.
fantastic.
Yeah, no, we're very pleased with it. But you're right, Jay. So much earlier stage than Clayol. I mean, we've that resource at Clayol was based on approximately 69 holes. There's only been modern drilling here at Day. There was Anto completed 5 holes in 2022, only 2 holes in 2023, and we've now completed 5 holes. So a lot more work to get done. I think what you'll see us do next year before we drill it is do an airborne mag survey, because that seems to be a pretty good targeting device. And the topography here is a little bit more gnarly than Clayol. So past mag work was done on foot, and a lot of the area is kind of inaccessible on foot. So I think that drone mag is going to be very helpful in helping refine and identifying other targets to drill.
Sure thing. Yep.
I'm not going to get into the drill table. And again, just some pictures of rocks. I mean, you're just seeing, again, like Clayol, chalcopyrite, bornite, but you see a lot more of it here, which makes sense because it's higher grade. Most important slide, Jay. The peer comparison. Yeah, it's criminal. And again, I liken that to the fact that this resource was just published in August, so it's pretty new. Again, we have been off people's radar. Yes, we have issued quite a few shares. And I think the marketing efforts we've undertaken have really helped absorb those shares. And again, I think once people can continue to compare what we have at Clayol Main Zone and compare it to these other resources, that the value proposition is really clear. I think we'll close this gap. So we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. We're just going to keep getting the word out. And I think the value is apparent. I mean, you can compare these resources. They're available. And I think in many instances, our deposit is better. It's in one zone. It's copper gold versus a copper moly. It's a current resource. And in some cases, there's more tonnage or it's higher grade. So, yeah.
Well,
and then we're back at the beginning. That's my conclusion.
Yeah. All right. Well, then I guess you could, I guess we'll be watching for those assays coming out, the 2 holes from Clayol. And then we'll be watching to see what your program is for 2026.
Yeah, and I think in some other potential catalysts in there, we are looking to continue to scale up, and I think that's important. Just it makes it easier to access capital, and we do truly want to establish ourselves as BC's leading copper exploration company. I think we're going to continue to see a lot more interest in BC on behalf of the seniors. And I think there's just a tremendous amount of potential for new and significant copper porphyry discovery in our province.
Well, I think you get the story out more as well, and that will help when people start looking at the relative value what you have now and what seems to me like extraordinary upside exploration potential, especially over there at the RDP. Those are just really blockbuster holes when you're looking
Well, and and again, Jay,
200
that's
gram meter holes, you know.
yeah. And again, that's just one target area. It's called RDP because there's the Roy Day porcupine targets, and we also came up with a new discovery a couple of years ago called Bird. So again, you tend to put your blinders on once you're hitting some really good numbers, but there are other target areas out there also.
Mm-hmm. All right, Blaine. Well, that's something. Thank you very much for spending some time with us and letting our subscribers know the story a little more intimately. So we'll look forward to keeping up with you going forward into the future.
Excellent, Jay. Thanks very much. Thank you for your support.
You're welcome. Okay, well, that's it for this week, folks. I do expect to be talking to Tom Eldridge. He is a business development guy at Hydrograph Clean Power. Next week sometime, I should be interviewing him. So until then, goodbye and God's blessings to you.